Hi, I'm Luke and welcome to the Future of Sporting Events. Today within this Pechacuture I'm going to provide recommendations on how the sports events sector can build resilience into their future. From the year 2000, the UK has had a role in delivering every big sporting event from around the world, with 581,000 current employees working within the sector, with around 28 to 41 billion pounds being made recently from the London 2012 Olympic Games alone, with the sector growing everywhere globally, increasing to a market size of $471 billion, increasing around 20 billion every year. A survey by Lieberman has showed that 73% of the population were either very or slightly interested in the viewing of sports, with team identification found to have a strong influence on enjoyment levels of the fans, as well as expectancy disconfirmation. Within this Pechacuture, I'll be looking at three main issues currently being faced by the sports sector globally: globalisation, coronavirus and climate change, all of which recommendations will be made to ensure the resilience of the sector remains strong. Resilience can have many meanings. It firstly comes from the Latin meaning resilio, which means literally to jump back, thermala, and in terms of events, it is defined as being able to continue a business's life in a semi-stable state in the face of surprises. It's from Longstaff. So firstly, globalization is the intensification of consciousness of the world as a whole. That's from Robertson, with sporting events over the years increasingly becoming more commercialized due to sports and mega sporting events being able to bring huge financial investments from fandoms. That's from Slack. The running of these events seems to forget about the social cultural impacts along with the tribalism that made people fall in love with the sporting events in the first place. Even though these games pit teams and nations against one another, they are designed to bring the world together. That's from Delaney and Madigan. In recent years, sporting events have been seen to be dominated by the West, with the likes of the Commonwealth Games and Football World Cup being primarily held and won by Western nations. However, this has shown in recent history, especially in relation to the Olympics, that these Western countries may even get a smaller worldwide viewership than the developing ones, with the likes of China and Brazil in recent history getting over double the USA and more than the UK's views. This is from Statista in 2016, the TV viewership worldwide. It's recommended that sporting events companies ensure that tribalist virtues are shown and focused upon more to include all nations, as well as setting out objectives to bring the sport to new countries. That's from Moutinho 2007. Holding events within the developing world is also now seen as a development from a business and corporation standpoint, showcasing to the world how inclusive these businesses are. However, this is currently being done in the wrong way through force, with many of these developing countries having more issues of their own, including human rights and poverty, recently showcased by World Cups in South Africa and Brazil, where governments are spending hundreds of millions on stadiums and not developing the nation. Therefore, in order to be resilient when putting on sporting events, the developing world should be the first thought of a location. However, companies should work with the nations to ensure that these events can happen again, so there isn't any negative impact on the social stability of the nation or potential east-west friction that can happen. It's from Andref. Global issues cannot be solved by one single nation. World development is needed to progress these issues. Like most other industries, sport has stopped because of the coronavirus pandemic. Even though some fans are returning to stadiums to watch the sports they enjoy, there is no guarantee they will ever return back to normal. This is from Goldblatt, who also states that companies need to start taking the science properly, and the time to change and act is now. As FIFA analysis showed that £11.1 billion has been lost because of the coronavirus pandemic, a number football can't afford to lose again. The current situation in world football should act as a blueprint on what to do in the future, as this sort of pandemic can happen again. Therefore, if the sports sector wants to build resilience, key return to play strategies suggested by scientific research must be followed by Sharig and Mayer, and this, new measures should be put in place, such as whenever players are treated for medical attention, it should never be in the same room as another player, which was practiced before COVID-19. However, even with all resources the Premier League has, new players and staff test positive every week. So global sport is also responsible for 300 to 350 million tonnes of carbon emissions a year, being equivalent to Spain and Poland, which is too much, again by Goldblatt. Sporting events are already being impacted by the changing climate change, such as typhoons interrupting the Rugby World Cup from Cameron in Japan, and bushfires stopping the Australian Open. To fix this issue, Goldblatt suggests that all sporting federations sign the UN Sport for Action framework as well as hitting a certain year where all sporting events must be carbon neutral or zero in order to go ahead, as well as all government funding schemes for sporting events must ensure that the event is carbon neutral or zero again before investing. However, arguments made by King in 2005 have already suggested that it's too late to stop climate change, and no matter what we do, the planet is already beyond repair. The most popular way to negate a carbon footprint is to offset it by paying money to similar carbon dioxide saving elsewhere. However, Goldblatt has also suggested that offsetting doesn't work at all, and it actually makes a lot of it worse. Therefore, to conclude this Petroculture, sporting events must run in the future to ensure that if the world goes through another turbulent pandemic time, the population will stay entertained. I recommend, in order for the sector to stay resilient, they must move with the modern times by investing in and focusing more in developing countries. This is in order to keep the national pride and tribalism at a focus in these countries. Sporting companies should also be completely prepared for any health concerns that could affect anyone working within the sector. And finally, to help reduce